Hi, so this blog's about relationships. So when we come to relationships, people are always really quick to throw around this particular word, commitment. And I don't deny that the word commitment is important, not just in relationship, but also in life. But it's the dynamics and where that commitment is and what it's to, as to what's most important. So ultimately, we need to have a commitment in life. We need to have an overarching commitment for what we're actually doing with our life. What's our objective while we're on earth? And then everything tends to fall underneath that to help support that commitment. Now, if you've never really thought this through, I would suggest to you that you choose a commitment in your life towards moving towards the highest potential of what you're capable of. It's not often maybe we have to do a degree of soul searching to really get into the intricacies of that, but sometimes when we get stuck in life, it is particularly useful to maybe do a little intention or prayer to the universe. I know I do sometimes, but I ask the universe to help me make the decisions that are for the highest potential of all concerned. You know, me plus the rest of the universe that I'm engaged with. You know, I want to be here on this planet doing the absolute best I can do, because when you're in tune with the highest potential, it tends to be the maximum amount of energy that will flow through you and the maximum amount of soul growth. So that would be one commitment. I would suggest that the second commitment you make would be towards the truth, as in telling your partner the truth. And the third level of commitment is towards being true to yourself. So the first level of commitment is an overarching commitment, and the other two are on an equal par. So your commitment to the truth in yourself and the commitment to articulating and being in truth around your partner are on a parity with each other. So you have to commit to what is the truth within you. So again, if you're holding that intention that your truth is to move towards the highest potential, then sometimes the truth inside you can be about moving in towards the relationship. You know, sometimes our resistance is about staying out of something, and sometimes our resistance is about going into something. So your internal truth that you pick up as being part of your highest potential could be about going in towards this relationship. And you have to make a commitment to be with that sensation, that feeling, that truth for you that you want to move in towards that relationship. I suggest that you also make a commitment to articulate that and to make that clear also to your partner. But then you also have to be in truth when it starts to feel like the highest potential is to no longer be in that relationship. So you have to be as prepared to walk away from a relationship every day of your life as you do as to move towards it, depending on what the truth is. And I'm not talking about some kind of quick fluctuation here. This is where we might get confused, because often our patterns crop up of fear and all kinds of things. So we might get an idling type of thought of, oh, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. And I'm not saying right then you go to your partner and say, you know what, my truth right now, and I made a commitment to myself, is I no longer want to be with you. Because that small little hump that you could be going over within yourself, which is like, I don't want to be with you anymore, or today, or whatever, can just be an isolated thing which still falls under this overall umbrella of wanting to be with the person. So again, you've got this overall commitment to your truth, and this is where we have to kind of learn to filter out what is actually our highest potential. And again, that's where we actually have to start to tune in deeply into our soul self, because you'll get these little voices in you which do occasionally throw up a white flag, you know, or maybe we can call it a red herring, which will say, right, no, this is shit, I don't want to be in this anymore, you know, and then it can provoke this tendency to want to walk away and escape. So again, you've got to be aware what the overarching direction of the energy is, and if the overarching direction of the energy is still to be in the connection. You have to be true to that. But again, you also have got to be true when you feel that direction starts to change and starts to head the other way. Because why would we not want to live fully? Why would you want to resist going into a relationship? But equally, why would you want to resist coming out of one if it starts to feel like the greater good, or you start to get that sense within you that your greater good is to be doing something else? You know, either way, there's an element of suppression and resistance going on in there. So you have to have the, you know, that commitment to follow what feels like it's got the most potency for you. Now, it's also true that sometimes direction changes over a period of time. So sometimes the length of time going into a relationship is sometimes mirrored by the amount of time it takes to come out of it. So there's gradual turning points within relationships. You know, so especially if we're used to being single a little bit, we can often have a lot of resistance to go in. And then we kind of end up getting comfortable or lazy within, or it becomes routine, actually staying in relationship with that person. So our resistance is to come out. But in my experience, from what I observe with other people, is it's very rarely something which actually happens in an instant. You know, you might go back and you can maybe see turning points. So maybe you had a 3-year relationship and you might be able to relate that actually around a year and a half in, it might have felt like it started to gradually turn the corner and start to head out. So that doesn't mean that you got to that original first turning point and thought, right, it's kind of done with. But you can just kind of see over time that there's a life cycle to things, as there is with a lot of relationships we have in our life, whether it's our relationship to our job or whatever it might be. There's a period of time of going in, there's a period of time of coming out. And you have to try and hold that perspective. So it's also really useful. I remember someone telling me this like many years ago. It's important to try and hold the truth of what you actually see happening within the relationship as a whole. You know, so I think you can still be with your partner, even if you feel like you're gradually dispersing. You know, you might feel actually that the relationship is bit by bit coming apart. You know, but on the balance of it, you still feel like being together. And if you can cultivate the degree of awareness and consciousness and honesty with your partner, you know, you can actually say, okay, you know, it kind of feels a little bit like gradually we're heading in that direction, you know, but it still feels like we're integrated enough that we're in a very regular field of communication, you know, maybe still living together, having lots of interaction still, you know, and it tends to come out in little stages, you know, and bit by bit. And sometimes we get to a point where we might verbally end something, you know, but energetically we're still very much connected. And it's like, you know, we start to undo little bits of ties which free up more space in ourselves. And sometimes when we undo a tie a little bit too quickly, and sometimes we end up jumping out and then jumping right back in again, you know, especially when we're younger. Really recognise that pattern in myself, and again what I see in other people is you go into something, maybe get a bit scared, jump out, you know, and then dive back in. Or again, when you're on the way out of the relationship, you might prematurely try and cut something a little bit more harshly than what it needs to be, you know, and then you end up jumping back in again because you're not quite done with it. But bit by bit, you know, you get these stages. So again, first you might, you know, say verbally, I feel like it's coming apart. You might start spending less time with each other, you know, and then eventually at some point you actually tend to get an energetic ending, which can sometimes come quite a long period of time after the actual verbal ending, if you like, you know. So it can be maybe where one or the other person actually moves on and invites someone else in. Because, you know, we tend to tie subtle energy cords to people when we're in some relationships with them. And then often when we actually find someone else, we feel like, okay, maybe I can finally unhook off the other person and then sort of tie on energetically to someone else. And that's part of our truth, you know. It's also, again, particularly helpful if you're in your own vertical alignment in your life, you know, and then we tend to be a lot less horizontally needy. So by that I mean, you know, if you're doing your thing that you should be doing with your time, you know, you're living out your soul's destiny, so you're generally in a state of alignment and feel pretty good. We tend not to suck off other people's energy so much, you know, and feel as needy for them to prop us up. But, you know, it's part of our reality that we get nourished by the company of the people around us, you know. And if you kind of get into chakra dynamics, we get nourished, into our receptive chakras, and our energy radiates out and gives to other people. So it's not necessarily that we're vampiring off someone's energy when we're around people. There's this natural degree of exchange that occurs that nourishes us and makes us feel good. But if you're way off your vertical alignment, you know, you're not really doing the things in your life you're meant to do, you know, whatever state of discordance you might be in, then sometimes then we can become extremely needy of the people around us. So that's something to watch out for. Okay, so yeah, so again, eventually you might get a sort of energetic ending, you know, but again, so the journey in can take a while, and the journey out can also take a while. There you go. Thanks a lot.